Hello, my name is Nagasawa from Akademi University in Finland. Today, I'm going to talk about a mapping literature review of teaching faculty-librarian collaboration in higher education. This is an outline of today's talk. This is the background of my study. In the context of recent educational reform, academic libraries have been involved in contributing to the reforms, so that information literacy instruction is an integral component of higher educational systems. In the process, building teaching faculty-librarian collaboration has been recognized as an important factor. This study aims to present an overview of what and how the library and information science literature has researched building teaching faculty-librarian collaboration in higher education in terms of information literacy. As my method, a mapping literature review was undertaken with a qualitative thematic analysis approach. Relevant studies were identified from a search of a database of library and information science. The publication period is between 2000 and 2019. In addition, further studies were searched manually during the same period. The selection criteria were focus on teaching faculty-librarian collaboration, collaboration in education, written in English, and not descriptive reports. Based on the database search, 8 relevant studies were identified. The manual search identified 3 relevant studies. In addition, further studies were found and examined using a chaining method. As a result, in total, 22 studies were included for this literature review. Let me start with a brief review of features of the included studies. This chart shows that most of the included studies were conducted in North America and Europe, although several other countries are recognized. And the range of the publication period among the included studies is between 2001 and 2018. Of the included studies, many applied case studies. In particular, the authors' own case studies based on their practices are often found. Some described their own experiences in the process of building collaboration in educational settings, and others collected data to understand teaching faculties during the process. Questionnaires are also often utilized in many of the included studies. Most of the questionnaire data were collected from teaching faculties in order to understand their attitudes toward libraries, while a few questionnaires were aimed at librarians. Interviews and literature reviews were also conducted. These interviews collected data from more than one institution in order to gain general perspectives. Most of these studies applied no particular theoretical frameworks, but a few studies were underpinned by theories. Based on analyzing collected data through inductive thematic analysis, 4 main themes emerged as the findings of the included studies. This slide shows the main themes. I turn now to explaining each theme in turn. The first theme is strategic approaches in educational development, which examines how librarians are involved in educational development by integrating information literacy components. In the process of designing courses, curricula, or policies with teaching staff, librarians build collaboration with teaching faculties. Librarians used to collaborate with teaching faculties mainly in course development. However, recently collaboration in curriculum development has become the mainstream. As for organizational development, only one of the included studies provided a few examples of developing information literacy policy. As subcategories of this theme, some practical strategies were extracted. Many studies showed sharing information in various ways, such as shared understanding, shared values, and shared goals. This means once teaching faculties know librarians' expertise and knowledge, then teaching faculties actually start to listen to librarians and to discuss information literacy instruction as part and parcel of their courses or curricula. On the other hand, librarians are enabled to design information literacy instruction customized to the particular courses or curricula. As a result, information literacy instruction is designed to fit in each course or curriculum. In addition to sharing information, giving teaching faculty ownership, and providing information literacy instruction at appropriate timing were also extracted as strategic approaches. The second theme is librarians understanding and supporting teaching faculties, which means librarians seek to understand information behavior of teaching faculties prior to building collaboration, and if needed, support those teaching faculties. That includes attitudes toward and/or perceptions of not only library resources and services, but also information literacy, collaboration with librarians, and the teaching role of librarians. Librarians expect this understanding will help finding and approaching teaching staff who might work with librarians for information literacy instruction. Assisting and supporting teaching faculties means that librarians provide teaching staff with individual consultations or workshops. Librarians expect this assistance and support can change teaching faculty's attitudes toward and perceptions of libraries. This is considered as information literacy instruction for the teaching faculties. Some studies showed examples of some teaching staff that started to work with librarians after experiencing librarians' assistance or support. The third theme is redesigning library structure and personnel. In order to contribute to the educational reform under the rapid change of societal and institutional situations, libraries redesign or consolidate libraries to reinforce their institutional capital. This is discussed in terms of restructuring library organizations and operations, adequate staffing and time, as well as enhancing their expertise and their understanding of a higher educational context. The fourth theme is influential conditions in libraries, institutions, or societies, which facilitate or hinder building collaboration between teaching faculties and librarians. As a hindering condition, the institutional power imbalance between teaching faculties and librarians is known to prevent librarians from working with teaching staff as colleagues. As both facilitating and hindering conditions, institutional structures and human agencies were extracted. The included studies extracted several hindering conditions. However, some studies indicated that librarians' personal approaches could modify those hindering structural conditions. This study has shown the main themes and their respective sub-themes concerning building collaboration between teaching faculties and librarians in higher education. Having extracted the themes, it should now be possible to organize them. The main theme, strategic approaches in educational development, encompasses the notion that librarians encourage teaching faculties to integrate information literacy components into their courses and curricula by means of a variety of strategies. In order to achieve this, librarians directly approach teaching faculties so the latter are amenable to work with librarians and ultimately integrate information literacy components into their courses and curricula. So I labeled it as direct approaches to teaching faculties, and it is the core theme of studies of this phenomenon. The themes of understanding and supporting teaching faculties and redesigning library structure and personnel could be also labeled as librarians' approaches, but not direct approaches. These approaches are to create environments which promote the building of collaboration. Understanding teaching faculties informs librarians of appropriate teaching staff to work with. And supporting teaching faculties increases the motivation of teaching staff to work with librarians. On the other hand, redesigning library structure and personnel improves the potential institutional capital of libraries so that librarians might be better prepared and more devoted to work with teaching faculties. Thus, these two themes are labeled as indirect approaches to building collaboration with teaching faculties, which underlie the direct approaches. The final theme, library, institutional, societal conditions, underlies librarians' approaches sometimes as barriers and at other times as enablers. As mentioned earlier, some studies have indicated that librarians' personal approaches could modify hindering structural conditions, although it may not be easy and quick to change structures in most cases. This theme is labeled as influential conditions, and is located as underlining the direct and indirect approaches. This is the thematic context of my review of studies on building collaboration between teaching faculties and librarians in higher education in the library and information science literature. Now, time is pressing, so let's move on to the discussion part. As for themes, based on a literature review approach, this study extracted and mapped 4 main themes and their sub-themes, and furthermore, organized the main themes as the thematic context. These findings are different to findings from previous literature reviews of this phenomenon. Firstly, this study extracted themes almost exclusively in educational settings, which is different to the other known reviews, notably Bruce in 2001, which showed a map of collaboration rather than educational settings. Secondly, this study did not apply any particular framework for analysis. Thus, themes were extracted without conceptual limitations. This is different to the other known review, written by Phelps and Campbell in 2012, which applied the model of relationship marketing to analyzing their findings. Thirdly, this study not only identified themes, but also organized them as the thematic context. As for methods, practical case studies based on empirical data, questionnaires, or interviews with constituents in the institution are seen much more than theoretically underpinned studies. This relates the point made by Doskach that most of the published articles are the How We Done It Good reports of projects. Phelps and Campbell's review also supports this point. This review of library and information science literature presents an overview of the themes and method of study which have addressed building collaboration between teaching faculties and librarians in higher education. In conclusion, this review shows that the identified themes are pertinent to librarians' direct and indirect approaches to teaching faculties and influential conditions underpinning their collaboration. And secondly, empirical on-case studies are much more common than theoretically underpinned studies. These conclusions are within a scope of 22 articles. Examining further studies and reviewing the current findings is required for future research. The following slides show the list of the included studies in my literature review. Thank you for your kind attention.